Hello, and welcome to the Men's Movement Podcast. I'm your host, Vince Casey. This is a podcast where we explore the rising culture in men's healing and interview top thought leaders about the positive shift that is occurring in the masculine consciousness. The Men's Movement Podcast is in partnership with We Society. We Society, we are the ones we've been waiting for. This month's guest is Shems Heartwell. Shems is a mentor and a guide for individuals and couples. He also offers private couple retreats on Maui and facilitates men's retreats and offers coaching as well. Shems, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Vince. Nice to be here with you.
Yeah, it's nice to be with you. For those of us that aren't familiar with your work, would you like to kind of give us a breakdown of your background and some of the offerings that you hold?
Sure thing. I have a big passion for us all collectively, and expanding our relational capacity. And I come from some hardship from family with a lot of trauma generationally, and my father losing his parents at a young age, which led to a rough childhood, a bumpy one with, just my mom left when I was 6 and I was with my father, and it was really stressful and challenging. And because of that, I had some developmental challenges emotionally and school and all that. Unfortunately, I had some good mentors come into my life. I'm doing the real fast forward one, but some really good, healthy allies and mentors and some good grandparents and enough really supportive things for my nervous system to be just healthy enough to navigate the world well, but still needing a lot of growth and healing to be able to handle the stresses of life, the hardship of like boys in school and competition and fighting and all those things. And that kind of pushed me into doing men's work, not as a leader, but as actually someone who really needed to make friends with men and to learn to be with men and to find my strength and to find more of my capacity. So I have a long history of being involved in men's work. And then I became a naturopathic doctor, acupuncturist, really in the medicine field. And then I just was struggling in relationship. Basically, I'm pretty good in, Qigong and all these things, but I would hit these thresholds inside myself where I would shut down or do a lot of things I experienced my father do. Big waves of anger, pushing people away, hitting certain places where I couldn't open my heart and stay connected in a challenging moment with my partner. And it led to me doing quite a few workshops, but mostly the most consistent ones with Gay and Katie Hendricks, who have been real pioneers a lot in somatic psychology and in really the body-centered movement of, not only relational work, but like nervous system and coming home to ourselves and learning how to recalibrate ourselves to thrive in the world and the realm of coaching. And so that just began such a phenomenal, rich journey for me of that world and that understanding and that realizing that even doing medicine, how often the issues many of us face in our tissues and our organs, and whether it's like metabolic issues as diabetes, or whether it's like stress and sleep issues or things, a lot of them return back to my relationship with myself, behavioral patterns, and how my relationship is with family, with a partner, with how my friendships are and how much I connect and how much I know how to resource myself with people. And that got more and more interesting and exciting for me. And I'd see the correlations between, like, you could take all the herbs and all the right food and all the right cold plunges and all the things that turn our body on and be a phenomenal athlete and still be really suffering in the sense of like keeping your heart open and handling kind of our inner shadows where we have aspects of our nervous systems that just don't thrive well in connection with others and need upgrading. And to me, that's my work, is how do we upgrade our operating systems so that we are more healthy with ourselves and with each other. And then ultimately, I hope each of us becomes a leader in our circles and our communities to help each other lean in when things get hard and get closer instead of pushing each other away or instead of categorizing one another and not truly like going, what's in the way for me to accept you? And go beneath where I don't agree with you, but actually get to know why I don't agree with you and what makes you move. And so that's my passion, is that realm, and combining that with really tuning our instruments to be highly functioning beings on a breath level, on a grounded level, on a connection level to the planet too. Because to me, it's not one or the other, it's both ultimately.
Yeah, well, that ties in perfectly for why I brought you on today. You are a relationship expert, and I have been finding myself in a new budding relationship that, for me has been feeling like pretty much exactly what I felt like I was calling in. I've been in a about a 5-year process of being almost on a sabbatical. I was still open to dating people and I was still open to making connections. But for the most part, it seemed like the universe was kind of doing a work on me and needed to clear out some of my closet in order to make room for more beautiful, wholesome relationship. I had been in a lot of negative patterns in my past where relationships became toxic pretty fast, and I didn't remove myself from the dynamic just because I didn't want to be alone again. So I really kind of had to spend some time fully feeling that feeling and making myself feel whole by myself without having to lean on a partner for that. And since that process, I've actually called in what I consider the most amazing person I've ever been with. And our dynamic has been really beautiful. And there's been so many check boxes that I kind of had written down on paper and in my mind. And when I met her, it was just like every single checkbox was checked. And even with this beautiful dynamic, even with the budding relationship, we still have a lot of hard conversations. And definitely any insecurity that I had tucked away in the corners is at the forefront. And it feels like kind of a small boy that needs to be heard. And it feels like, for the most part, something that I need to tend to. And I want to be, I guess, a strong enough presence to where I don't let that little boy take over like in the past where I would have been reactive, but just listen to him and be like, okay, thank you for sharing. And this, and, bring in the whole internal family dynamic that's within me, and have my father the little boy that is feeling insecure and different aspects like that. So I thought it'd just be fun to, I don't know about fun, but I thought that it would, I think it would be wholesome just to kind of have a real conversation around relationships. I don't really have a mentor in my life right now. My father figure is not anybody that I would go to for advice. So I do feel like sometimes I'm just swimming in this world alone with relationships. And I do think that there are probably a lot more men out there that feel that way too, especially if they're isolated. Like, I'm a part of a men's circle and consider myself on the leading edge of trying to be a connector and somebody that is out there doing the work. And I still struggle to find people that are out there that really want to connect and talk about relationships and seek each other out for lunch and stuff like that. So it's a dynamic that a lot of men are working on, and I hope we can get there together.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks for sharing. And I'm happy that you're at this edge. I would say this growth edge, right? That you, on some level, attracted a beautiful soul that sounds like a lot of resonance, and she is what you're wanting. And of course, what that tends to do is surface up the things that nothing else would. That's a good way to think of it as a relationship, is like, no matter how much work we do on ourselves too, and how much we've been growing and evolving, usually when you call in a potent reflection and with a lot of intimacy and vulnerability and heart to heart and sexuality, it's going to surface up, some of our opportunities to grow and our vulnerabilities and some of our deepest fears too, right? Because especially in the early phase, you didn't say how long you with her, but generally in the first, 6 months or a year, there's a lot of fragility to a relationship. You're getting to know one another. And so there's more things get touched, but also there isn't the strength of having been through a lot of things together to really trust one another's capacity to accept, for one, not necessarily heal, but accept. Can I accept that, oh, you're on your edge and you're facing some of these things that come up, that like the boy, and the difference between like being the boy, having a subtle level of like needing reassurance or mom energy on some level, versus the, like you just named really well, the being able to have that resource in myself. So if the boy's there, I take care of the boy, and the man in me goes, you know what, I just need to do a little bit more of that before we hang out next, or whatever it is. And so being in that place, and I really appreciate you naming too that a lot of men don't yet want to talk about that too, or it's not easy to find men who are mature in this way too, where they really have the awareness that relationship does have these aspects of it that put us on our growth edge and have us feel, sometimes our lack more than our strength, or sometimes we get highlighted more of our opportunities where, gosh, there's things about ourselves. I still need to find my center when I get angry. Still need to find that and be able to meet that, cool that down, not make it wrong. not suppress it, but also not let it turn into aggressive energy that toxifies the pool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've been together for about 4 months. We came together and pretty much started spending any moment that I wasn't at work or she wasn't at work or I didn't have my child, we were together. And that dynamic was really beautiful. I kind of knew deep down inside we were moving really fast. And also, I'd been without a relationship for 5 years. So it felt really great to have somebody that wanted to occupy that time. And, there's definitely a lot of different dynamics that are coming together at the same time. One of them is, even though I had 5 years to kind of find myself and do some growth, she has just been out of a relationship for about 2.5 months. And that relationship was 2.5 years. So she is actually kind of in a place of grieving when we met. And so I'm here ready to connect in this beautiful way. And she was able to meet me there at a lot of times. And at the same time, she was still processing her ex and having feelings around that. And I was sometimes her support person for that, which was definitely challenging for me at times. Sometimes it felt really good. But yeah, she has just recently kind of felt that need for more spaciousness in her life. And, whenever she first brought that up, it actually felt really good because she has seen herself in a pattern of kind of just being in a relationship all the time and not really focusing on herself. And I was very supportive of that. And we decided that spaciousness looked like us hanging out on the weekends. And our first weekend was really rewarding. We waited all week to see each other, and it felt really beautiful to connect and be together. And then we started putting together next weekend. And then she actually wanted a piece of next weekend to herself. And that kind of felt like that's where my boy kind of came online, like, oh, like I'm really I'm vulnerable right now because that's not the way I feel. Like I want to be with you. Wild horses couldn't have kept me away from her that weekend. And just to feel her like, no, I need more time. It hit that nerve in me where I just felt like, oh, like I'm not getting enough here or something. And we began to process that, and even processing it felt heavy. She felt like, if I'm wanting space, like I don't feel like this is space if we're processing our relationship. And so there's a lot of love between us, and I really love the way she shows up in so many different ways. But this dynamic of needing space to figure things out has definitely brought new things online for me, and just new questions about, or what are my boundaries around this? Or what do I need in this scenario? And it kind of feels unfair to be like, hey, I'm going to totally change the dynamic of our relationship, and I don't really have the capacity to process that with you. And there's a piece of that doesn't feel good to me. And I think you could sit here and tell me, like, you know what, like pulling back is a very normal part of a new relationship. Like, relax and love her in the place she is. And I would totally get where that was wisdom. And I could also hear you say, you need to be met in a certain way. And if you're not being met that way, like you need to figure out like how much you're willing to connect with somebody that's not in a place to connect with you. And that would feel like wisdom too. So it's just, I think that relationships might be the trickiest dynamic that we have here on planet Earth. And I'm just so thankful to have a mentor and somebody that I consider a wise person to just sit down and delve into this with.
Well, thanks, Vince. I also just appreciate that this is so fresh, that's touching you right now as you speak about it, like that you're touching that place of what it's bringing up in you, and it's here and it's fresh and it's raw. And so thank you for that. And obviously there's some medicine in what it's bringing up in you, regardless of whether it's healthy or not. What's going for her, this is what's here, is you're touching this place of like, I want more. It doesn't feel good that she's not available at the level she has been available, which is how I really hear it, right? She was really available, and all of a sudden she's pulling that back for whatever reasons on her side that she needs, and it's hard to trust that probably too. But most importantly is like, how is what she doing for you? even before we decide whether or not it's healthy what she's doing, like what's the gift in it of like what's it inviting in you, as an order to, okay, it's touching this in me, there must be some gift in this that I'm having to feel this or getting to be with this. And like you said, I know I'm doing some healing of my boy that gets activated. Where else would you get to do this?
Right.
What other realm? And like, where else do you get to resource yourself well enough to go, okay, here's my right now, here's my moment to go, how do I really give that loving attention, that space for the place in me that's really feeling like this doesn't feel right, this doesn't feel good, it hurts, I don't know if I can trust her, all the things that may be coming up. I don't know what's going on inside of you, but there may be lots of layers that boy may feel that are probably older than her. That's an important part of it too. The reason that they're so sensitive is because they have some history, most likely, right?
Right. No, absolutely. I feel like they're, and I almost feel like maybe the deepest part of our connection is our inner children. I came from a family where I wasn't safe. I was spanked every day for just random reasons. Like it just felt like my dad just kind of used me as a release valve for his anger. And then a lot of my relationships after that sort of mirrored that dynamic again. And she felt basically not seen by her parents. She didn't feel a closeness with them. And I feel like both of those parts of us kind of found a place where we could connect. And I mean, there is a big piece of her that like by our third or fourth date, like she felt so familiar, like she almost felt like home.
Mm.
I don't, obviously you want to give it a little more time before you fully give that position to somebody, but it felt like this is what I've been waiting for. And I've gotten different kind of cues from the universe saying like, yep, I sent you this, and this is what you asked for. And yeah, that part of it feels really beautiful. And it's probably why I'm feeling all of those things come online for me for sure.
Yeah, Vince, and I really appreciate you sharing that because I also want to say there's a little shadow in that because,
Mm-hmm.
as much as like not knowing the full picture, you just shared something that had me get curious about a few aspects because obviously it may not be 100% true, but it
Right.
did sound like you two are bonding through some of the trauma a little bit you both have been through and generating that safe space together, right? And that feeling home and wow, like with you, I am safe in this connection, which, well, if we back up and expand it a little bit, a lot of relationships begin in a way that we meet somebody because there is a really deep need for safety, for being really honored and accepted and loved and seen and honored. And hearing you say, I have a history too of like having a really unhealthy father and then some pattern that led to having some unhealthy partnerships too, where I wasn't in my full power and I was having partners or people in my life not really feel the full potency of my being. And so mistreating me at times on some level. And then you track somebody else where they won't mistreat you. They're meeting you there. Most often relationship, and it may be faster for the two of you. Maybe there was something really golden and really precious, like you felt in these first, 3-4 months. Maybe the relationship already actually has to mature to both of you operating a little bit more from what I like to call the essential self, which is the place in us that isn't needing the safety and security of the other, is more thriving in the meeting, of soul to soul, spirit to spirit, heart to heart. Doesn't mean there's not healing happen, but most relationships at some point we bond sometimes unconsciously from our wounded aspects, or from the places in us that need to heal, that need to have this healthy aspect of love and connection. That's not what a relationship matures into, though. It starts there, and hopefully it matures through that into us growing stronger, trusting ourselves more, knowing ourselves deeper, trusting the other more, and being able to mature through that. A lot of relationships end because there's such a strong bond in this particular way. And then one person goes, wait a minute, no, I'm not in my highest aspect of meeting you. This doesn't feel like my most mature, full capacity myself. And I don't want to drop into a younger aspect of myself to resonate with you. I want to expand more into a more mature, more healthy, more wise, more expanded aspect and meet you here. And so if my guess and imagine for you both is there is maybe she might be sensing like, oh, I don't know, of course, But she might be sensing like, wait, we're so bonding, it's happening so fast. I'm getting a few little warning signals, maybe on some level about, how this feels. And if this is, like maybe I do need to get more centered and more in myself. And maybe she's picking up subtly some of the needy boy and going, I don't want to feed that. And I don't mean she's making a conscious choice, but her deepest intelligence might be on some level going, I want to feel the strength in you and the trust in you and know where you're at before I go deeper with you.
Right.
Too.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense. It's been a really neat dynamic to play with. Of course, like there's moments where she gets triggered, and I feel like I kind of step into this role where I've done a lot of work on myself and read a lot of books about the dynamics whenever people are feeling triggered. And I do this thing where, I try to stop whatever's going on with me and listen to her and try to extract out all of those emotions that, are coming out and be present with her during that and not escalate and not be offended. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I do that well, and other times I do step into the guy that wants to explain it away and be like, oh, you shouldn't feel that way because of this and this. And that's like a deadly trap. I don't know what it is about men that they're just, as soon as they hear negativity, they're just like, oh, I'm going to fix this. But I am getting better at recognizing those moments and stepping into that for her. And then I have moments where I'm feeling triggered and I kind of start stating my piece, and I kind of want that attention mirrored to me of, oh, okay, you're triggered. Let's focus on you. And a lot of times what I feel is kind of almost like aggravation or annoyance. And it makes me wonder, like, do I need to be in my masculine here? And I don't need to have that same process, or I don't need to process this with her because it doesn't feel organic whenever I try to process some of those deeper wounds with her. There have been, I guess it depends on the wound, but lately, whenever I bring up things that don't feel right, it just feels kind of like more like retraction than like, oh, let me give you the space that I felt from you whenever I was triggered. And that doesn't feel like a 50-50 split, but maybe there's a masculine feminine dynamic where that's not my role, or that's not what I need to be doing in that moment. Do you have anything to say around that?
Yeah, it's a difficult one for me when I don't watch and observe where she's at. Like, I appreciate you naming that, you're noticing that she starts to have a little aggravation or a discomfort, or who knows if her system even actually, when you feel more of your emotional energy, her system might lose safety, lose her center, not have that capacity to go, let me just ground what I'm feeling and really just witness and be with you, which is beautifully what you just said, is I am able to kind of shelf the stuff that's in me and make sure it doesn't create reactivity in me, and do my best to really give space and meet her with as much, presence, consciousness, loving acceptance, willingness to hear. She may not yet have had that experience enough to actually even be with it. This is where it's very, very significant in these situations to me to have a third party often, because, and the willingness of that, because what Eckhart Tolle coined the pain body, another way to call it the pain body, is that we have, basically all of us carry a certain amount of undigested emotional energy from, past relationships, from family and our early childhood, and even potentially from our ancestors, that's kind of passed down through the blood and through our bodies. And most of us are processing not only our lives, but we're actually kind of on the growth edge of our family system's lives, which is really powerful. And when we haven't had a lot of space to learn how to digest our emotional energy and to ground it and to kind of cook it inside of ourselves, we're going to have a really difficult time being present with somebody else's feelings, because anything within them that we resonate with, it's going to create activity and discomfort. And most of us, as you've seen in the world, we don't realize how skillful we are at checking out and avoiding and numbing and disassociating, disconnecting, rather than getting more present, checking in deeper, being with our feelings, having a healthy release of our feelings. Being that you and I have been involved with Sacred Sons and men's work, we've been in containers where we've done primal recall, where we've moved huge amounts of energy. And basically we've digested a portion of the huge, heavy energy in our systems. It's possible that she hasn't yet had that experience so much. So her system may be feeling how big some of that tenderness is, some of that emotional, some of that need is in your heart for the more vulnerable place in you. And that, just like her system doesn't yet have a reference point for how to be with that. And to me, that's one reason why a skilled, therapist or guide is so valuable, because they can help her system go, oh, it's okay that you're having those feelings. You just need to be able to stay present with those and meet those and be with those while you're being present with this beautiful soul who's having some reactivity that's really not about you. And so what, if I fast forward that into what ideally I want all of us to keep growing into, is what you're doing, but even to another level, is you to go, okay, how do I be in touch with, while I'm holding space for her, how do I like really ground and burn up that emotional energy and really get very centered and let my system like literally plug in and be like so here, that not only am I listening, creating space for her, I'm helping her system transmute emotional energy because I'm transmuting emotional energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's another level that most of us want to get to, right?
Yeah, I would love to be there.
Yeah. And that's not something we have a lot of guidance for, or a lot of modeling of in our world. Even the best therapists, a lot of the best therapists or good therapists, I don't yet know if that's been taught much in therapy school. It's another level. I mean, of course, it's taught to somatically, be with ourselves, but there's another level of like, actually, when we're resonating and there's stuff coming up, I've got to get so centered that I'm burning through my stuff, but I'm also like a tuned instrument, inviting her system to tune to me. What a lot of us do unconsciously is we tune to the instrument that's out of tune. And we try to get more present with that instrument and be with that person. And we kind of rubberneck a little bit. And then it throws things off versus, oh, you're having a lot of feelings. Let me get more centered, more grounded, more present, more spacious in my sense of how big my energetic field is, which for some people is so triggering. When you get more centered and more alive and more energy running through you, it's terrifying to some folks, but that's the agreement we want in a healthy relationship, is like, oh, when I'm off, I want you to like be able to actually like turn your dimmer switch on and run more energy and get more present with yourself to the point where you can really be with me.
Yeah, that's a great observation. I haven't talked about it yet, but dysregulation is a big part of this. I like whenever that wounded aspect gets triggered by something, the first thing I feel is I kind of slip into dysregulation. And then it could be like almost a day process sometimes to kind of get back to this like grounded state where I feel like I'm a solid version of myself. I don't think that I react as much out of that state, but just like what happens for me is sometimes I get shaky. Sometimes I'll lose like sleep over just thinking about the talk and like, oh, I should have said this, and oh, I should put like an email together and send it to like that part of me that kind of wants like, oh, I didn't get heard, like, but I need to feel heard around this. And there's just like this kind of almost stewing over the details that happens with me. And yeah, I really feel like I could probably use more tools in my tool bag for grounding whenever I'm that way.
Yeah, Vince, thank you. And I imagine lots of folks who are going to listen to this can go, yeah, I know what that's like. I know that feeling when something's off and we have an eruption or a disconnection, and then it's hard for my system to return back to regulation. And that keeps me up. I'm worried. My mind is trying to solve what's happening. And it's like figuring out, and it takes a while to what we could call recover or come back to being resourced, and grounded in ourselves and available. And you're right, this is the front line right here. This is the ultimate edge. And like I could say I'm maybe just 20 years ahead of doing that. And still every once in a while, life, spirit puts me right at the place where I have this opportunity to make sure I'm staying strong in that, whether it's like an all-night pet hospital experience with some fear on the head, like, whoa, how do I handle this? And yet I think most of us on this edge. And in my experience, the reason we often stay dysregulated is that what happens is we don't stay present with our body and emotional and energetic experience long enough before the mind starts to go into solving, the mind doesn't solve well. It's good at puzzles. It's good at, solving equations. It's good at insight and things. But most of the time, unfortunately, especially in current humanity, it's actually getting in the way of a deeper intelligence. And that deeper intelligence is more in the heart and in the gut. And it has a lot of loving compassion for like what happened. Like we had this conversation, it didn't go well. And then my mind's trying to say, like, oh, if I would have said this, or if only I was more patient, versus, oh, can I be really gentle with that place in me that did my best? I know I know I could handle that better. I'm not going to solve that through my mind. Let me really accept and give space for and be with myself and make it okay that I fumbled again, or I didn't do it perfectly, or that didn't work. Because I think the more that we have this generous connection with ourselves and space and being with what's going on with ourselves, almost like what we'd like God to do. If we have a God or a spirit or that realm, what we really want is God to be so caring and compassionate that we relax in ourselves, and we know we want to be better, but we also don't have our shame get so activated that it kind of, or the inner critic gets so activated that starts to like really make us wrong. To me, it's a very foundational thing that to me is the difference between a mature man and immature man. And a woman too, is maturity and experience usually gives us more compassion and acceptance of those who are off or not doing well. Like the guy that's freaking out on the streets and yelling at everybody and screaming and really toxic with his energy. Someone with a lot of maturity is going to probably have more compassion than anger towards. It's going to go, that guy's really suffering. And they may still go, hey, your behaviors aren't okay, but it's not going to come from like, we're going to knock this guy down and lock him up. It's going to come from, wow, this guy's really suffering. Can I be someone just to go take a look at him like, hey, you're being really rude right now with people. And yeah, imagine you're having a rough time. Is there any way I can support you? Do you need a little food? Do you need a little connecting? Can I be an ally right now to support you? Like the difference between those two is very significant. And same with us in each relationship is like, can that place in me be that way with myself? And then hopefully ultimately with our partner. And we get to practice it again and again in relationship, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel that. My gut is, I feel like about 90% of the time, my gut is just saying, keep going. You got this. Get in the flow. This is all part of the flow. Like this is just kind of the dynamic. There's expansion and contraction. Expansion and contraction. You're in the breath of life. Just go with this and don't worry so much.
Yeah. What would it be like if you trusted that more? What would it be like if you valued that intelligence in you a little more than you do now?
It would feel really good. And I think that the affirmation piece is like the piece that like somehow affirmation has to come from, or in the past it has had to come from an outside source with me. I didn't get a whole lot growing up, so I almost wish I just had a box that like whenever I got worried I could just open it up and it was just like a wise father figure that was just like, you got this. You're doing good.
Yeah, my friend. Yeah. And you deserve that too. Truly. And it is a sad thing that you didn't have that in your family system, you know, even beyond your father, that there wasn't another healthy family member, father figure, grandfather, grandparent, person in the community that could remedy some of the toxicity of your father's lack of capacity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, brother. And this is the challenge. I mean, because the boy in us will always hope that something or someone will show up and really be that authority and that healthy, you know, wise soul that like helps us remember who we truly are.
Yeah. I do need to give a shout out to Jason, a member of the Wolfpack, our men's circle here. You know, when he first started coming to our men's circle, he's from Texas. I'm from Texas as well. And so he kind of mirrors a lot of like my past and my childhood, and even has a lot of similar dynamics as my father. And when he first came in the circle, I was kind of like, oh, this guy doesn't stick around very long. But you know, like all things, we've sort of grown together through the process of doing work together. And he came over one day to pick up some drums when I was kind of going through this, and he did. He said that. He just said, you know, I think you got this. I think you're doing the right thing. And yeah, it meant so much to me. And it really, really hit home and kind of felt like he was stepping into that mentor leader dynamic that, I'm just kind of feel like is in the past been difficult for me to locate.
Yeah. And also it sounds like a brother, that's what I feel like so healthy that men need is they don't need a brother just to watch sports with, right? They need a brother who can go like, oh, wow, you're in it. And
Yeah.
I trust you. I see your capacity. I know you have it. How can I be here with you? Not even as a mentor, actually, too, as a like, I see you.
Yeah.
I know my struggles and I see your struggles and I also know your capacity. I wish we had more of that, right? That's what the men's work's really about is we all go through our moments when life cooks us to the bone. And ultimately, it's like, how do we, I keep thinking that as reminding each other too, because, the inherent wisdom of a deeper down below the conditioning and the enculturation and the toxicity of our lineages slash our current, family dynamics. Below that is this deep wisdom inside all of us, and part of what good work is helping that come back to life and remember, reconnect with what we know at a deep level. I believe that more and more and more as I get a little older and I have more experiences that we all have like a guidance system that maybe is connected to ancestors, connected to, spirits on some level, or the force of life and love and God, or whatever you want to call it. Because to me, it doesn't matter. It could be any religion on some level. There's a divine intelligence that comes through in any of us when we're open to it. And I do think part of our work is doing those things that help us have more and more capacity to clear out whatever's in the way of that, to move it, to be with it, to love it, to connect with it. And then we just make more space for that guidance system to turn on, which I really love that you have it. Your gut's telling you like, this is okay. This is how it is. It's going to have these ups and downs, these bumpy things. And you're learning and on that process of getting more and more trusting and connected to that. And the mind doesn't like that. For whatever reason, the mind tends to feed off of, it's addicted to fear. It's addicted to hunting for what's wrong. It's addicted for solving things often because of, it's more the mind that does those things than the biology, I think, even though there's nervous system aspects of being familiar to our nervous system being more towards like things aren't going to be okay, what's going to happen wrong next. But a lot of that's fed by the mental stories and programming and beliefs we've gotten indoctrinated in so many levels, right? And so back to practicality of that, because that's theory in a certain level. I want to know what's going to help you build this muscle to be connected to your gut in a way that you go, oh, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, thank you for helping. I'm going to listen to you at least as much as my mind, if not more. I'm willing to. I'm going to feel you, and I'll let my heart be the mediator between the two as well.
Yeah. I do have a meditation practice, and I pray, I would say pretty much daily. But I also do feel some frustrations in those practices. I mean, there have been seasons in my life where meditation's been very powerful for me, and there's seasons in my life where meditation feels like I'm almost taking a nap. And I am listening for like answers, and I'm listening to my body to give me those answers. And I come out of it 30 minutes or an hour later and be like, oh, didn't really hear anything. I do feel more rested and more relaxed, but I'm not feeling like I came up with like a solution. And maybe that's still the mind wanting to, oh, I found this permanent concrete solution just by meditating. And maybe it is more subtle than that, and just relaxing the nervous system an hour each day until we are more relaxed and that peace that we can find the gut or the heart or the body in that.
Yeah, Vince, that's not easy. It's not easy for most of us. Most people I know, and being in the world we're in, know that so stimulates the eyes and the mind and all things, being still and dropping into that meditative state and being quiet. It's not an easy thing to do as much as it's beneficial too, right? And you experience that. Sometimes, when I work with clients, I often encourage them to not just have like a 1 hour strong practice, but to have like 3 or 5, what I would call state shift moments in the day. So, and I don't know, you seem pretty relaxed overall just in your state of being, but some people I work with, they run a company and they have 100 employees plus, and they're like on caffeine, go, let's do. I've got emails. I get home. It's hard for me to connect to my kids, And so with someone like that, I say, make sure you've got these little touch points, whether it's before you eat or before you transition off work, that you do something for 3 to 15 minutes that actually drops your RPMs back into one that is more of what I would call like a hum in your system, that you've slowed your system down. And maybe even going to the gym and doing a workout, and after that, noticing that you're in restorative mode, your heart rate's slowing down, you're connecting yourself, but you're also in an experience that feels like, okay, here's the pleasurable experience of being alive. It's the most simple way to think of it, is that what feels pleasurable about being alive? And you can't feel that unless you slow your RPM down enough. Even if you take a run, for most people, it's not pleasurable while you're pushing your heart rate up. Like if I go climb a mountain on my bike, there's a pleasure in the fact that I'm pushing myself and I'm on high octane and my sweating and my heart's like really at that high 100 plus beats and all that. But the real pleasure is in the wave afterwards, where I had that, and then I'm like, my body's relaxing and I'm dropping into the endorphins and my system's chilling. So what I'd say for you is, to me, the relationship with the deeper intelligences is one that we want to keep finding, like you said, through prayer, I'm going to take 10 deep, full breaths, and I'm just going to be with myself and feel what feels alive, what feels pleasurable, what feels connected to life moving through me. And what I love about this is it completely correlates to, if you get good at this 2, 3, 5 times a day, you get really good at tuning the instrument of a partner to meet you there, and taking sexuality deeper and taking intimacy deeper and being able to sense and feel and read deeper into a partner, with the ability to actually, what, in my experience, the feminine often craves the masculine to take them where they can't go deeper. They don't want to like tell them to figure out the world. They want to actually have them have an experience where they drop into a way deeper level, whether that's sexually, whether that's through like, we're going to make enough money to have a beautiful home, love, and I'm going to take care of you. Like there's all kinds of realms that goes into, but it also is like intimately like guiding them to like, hey, I want you to really feel the depth of my love and let it in all the way. And for me to be connected to that, I got to be connected to that in me. Right. So if that's helpful, I don't think there's any perfect practices. There's lots of different realms, and I have mine and you have yours. It's more like, when I do that practice, does it really drop me in most often? It's never going to work every time. And does it really drop me in a state when I'm come out of it? I'm, like you said, after an hour meditation, I am relaxed, connected to myself, feel like plugged in and at ease. I want to be able to get there in 5 or 10 minutes.
I like that. Yeah, so that was a pretty good introduction into, I guess, the dynamics that I'm going through in my relationship. There's also like a lot of really beautiful, healthy things. So sometimes whenever I kind of talk about the things I'm struggling with, I feel like I'm not giving ample time to the things that are going right. But one thing that we do have is in our, I guess you could call them confrontations. They don't feel super confrontational, though. We have a really beautiful dynamic where, like, if you want to call it an argument, they go more like, I feel like when you say that, I don't feel seen because you're not acknowledging that I did this. And like, my responses are like, well, I feel like my inner child is triggered whenever you're not validating that. I like, our conversations are so like on a deeper level than they've ever been. I am an anxious attacher. I know that about myself, and she is too. It's the first anxious attacher I've ever been with, and it's actually kind of nice. Always brought in avoidant people to my life, and so whenever I came to them with a need, their answer was to like avoid my text for 4 days, or what their response was. So now it's kind of nice to have somebody be like, have that same type of like, oh, I'm not feeling attached. Can we just connect on the couch for a few minutes and stuff like that, that comes up with the anxious style. And I do think that we're both probably more moving towards healthy attachers, but that dynamic has been really beautiful to be a part of and to witness. And there is a piece of me, because of where I'm at with that, to have that mirrored to me makes me feel even safer. Yeah.
That sounds good. It sounds like you guys are creating a safe space together to really do your best to understand each other and understand what is arising from each other, and because to me, this is the discovery process. That's what's the beginning of a relationship really is a lot of discovery of, who is this person and what gets touched in them and what arises and how am I in relation to this person and what is being there with me. And it really sounds like the way you two are sharing and exploring sounds really healthy, like you said. And even to understand that, it's help because we have these qualities of anxious attachment or this tendency to go in that direction, how are we supportive of each other when that's there versus like reactive to that, or another way to think of it is how are we responsive to that when that's present in the other, even to be supportive of them self-regulating versus needing to relationally regulate too. And there's this great, sounds like there's some good opportunity too for you two to keep maturing and understanding each other and being there, and also being supportive of like when you can give it and when you can't. And when you can't, how do you support the other to find it in their presence, which is a nice aspect too. Of like, even though I'm not as available as you want, I'm not here, I really want to just give you some loving attention, knowing that you can find that center with me as well, even though I'm not, available for the night to hang out, whatever that is, or I'm not available for a long conversation, but I am available just right now to just totally love you and see you and accept exactly where you're at and all that you're feeling right now and just letting you be in that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm hoping that we'll make it out to Remembrance this year and be able to play with some of these dynamics out in the group setting and receive some facilitation. The last Remembrance, I was out there by myself and I was calling this in, and it was really a beautiful moment to share all of the work that the men and women did together. And I've heard some really good stories about what was happening in your circles, and I really liked Sarah Uma. She came on and told me a story about her coming to you as her beloved. I thought that was really beautiful. So, how was that first experience of being out at Remembrance for you?
I felt it went so beautifully well. I had Marnie, who I've known for many years, and I had my buddy Dale, who you got to meet, who, was a mentor for me when I was a young buck and taught me acupuncture and was a dear, just like almost like a spiritual father for me. And then to know Sarah was there and she didn't have a place to go and to invite her to be in our circle, I felt like we had such a precious journey together, And as a group and with the men and women and how things went and what we created and guided was really deep and powerful. There's things I learned from it too that I was like, we probably be a little more cautious around this because we went super deep, having the men hold the space to let the women feel their deepest feelings in a safe space for men, whether that was like anger or wrath or profound hurt, and have the men be this profoundly powerful presence of catalytic energy to help transmute that. And we went through all the women with that, which was super deep. And some of them were huge and some of them were a little unhealthy because the men had a hard time holding how big the energy was. And we didn't have enough as tight of agreements for that level, but it ended up working out really well. But what happened afterwards was when we switched and let the women come around all the men, and the men were in the middle, and the women were blessing us back with this energy and this love and this like gratitude. So many men's hearts cracked and so many men got honored and seen the way that many of us men need. There's so much complaint about how men don't show up and all these things. And then there's these men who show up and are doing their best to like do the work, and they don't have a culture yet necessarily that actually really can honor how willing and how much there's an attempt to be the healthy masculine, to make good what's happened in the past with men for generations. And this making good in the way that the women honored, sang, toned, came around the men was just as precious as a thing I've ever seen in my life. I was so deeply touched, and so many of the men were touched. And so there were some really beautiful things that happened, and I am looking forward to co-collaborating and creating something like that again.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely on my mind. I'm actually going to be interviewing Adam Jackson next to talk about the next Remembrance and to talk about Convergence X. So that should be a good one as well.
Wonderful. Good. Well, I just had such a great time with Adam at the leadership gathering. I was at the leadership summit with Adam and the crew, and it felt like the leadership of Sacred Sons, even though, it's been through a lot, some folks have pulled out and things, it's really tight right now. Like what's happening and what's kind of come in feels like the strongest I've felt since I've been involved, for 6 years or whatever it is at this point. I'm like, okay, cool. It feels like something's getting strong. There's a maturing and things. So it's kind of exciting to see what's going to unfold from here with what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm certainly still have a way to go on my journey, and I feel like it's changed so much in my life to become a part of this work and put me in a place where I can hold a higher self into a benevolent relationship that serves both of us. And I'm so thankful for that capacity in my life. And I want to learn more, and I want to get deeper into this for sure.
Well, thanks, brother. Thanks for, stepping up too, to offer a podcast and create containers and environments to talk with brothers and to have a channel, more of these channels that men can hear and connect with, and the better in some way. So thanks for taking that, big leap in yourself too, to like, be on your growth edge, be vulnerable, share, and then also create an environment to really, have a space for men to be touched and connect and have, receive the medicine.
Yeah, today was definitely a growth edge for me. I was pretty nervous walking into this, mainly because I didn't want to just, usually I create a script of questions, and today I just wanted to be conversational. So that was new for me. I was afraid I wouldn't get to the core of what I wanted to get to, but it just emerged really beautifully with you. And also want to say the right things, and want her to be pleased with this too, because I know she's going to listen as soon as it's published.
Well, that's a little pressure to come in. I like it.
A little bit of pressure.
Yeah, good. Well, bless you too. Bless your journey together. And she's lucky to have your willingness in your heart. And I'm sure she's experiencing that too, just like how much you care and how big your willingness is to show up in a good way.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your guidance and mentorship in this regard, and maybe I'll be reaching out to you in the future if I need to check in on a few things.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Would you like to give anything as far as like information or a way people could reach out to you if they want to join one of your workshops or get some guidance from you?
Yeah, one thing I have, that I recorded a relational course for men or men with their partners for Sacred Sons, and that's available now. And it's really affordable, and it's a really great entry into, for me, some of the foundational things that most of us didn't get around relational skills. And it's a lot different than any other courses I've ever seen. I really pulled the things that felt most valuable to me. And I designed it so men could work with their own experience and apply that to their lives. However, they could also do it if they're in a relationship, and the couples could watch these together and explore some of the things that come up. And to me, it's, good relational work is not understanding. It's not reading all the books. You could have all this information. It's actually applied practical things we grow together in, that we encourage our nervous system to increase our capacity. And that's the hardest part about relational work, is that we need environments to like if you're going to the gym, you got to go to the gym a lot to get good at going to the gym and to build those muscle groups or to be good at athletes or whatever that is. Relational work is even more. You've got to really have a place to practice and try on new things to train our nervous system and to have it available to us in a fight. We don't all of a sudden like have the relational skill to cool down anger when we're angry. It's because we get intoxicated by it. So we've got to cultivate practices and skills and relational understanding in ourselves and with others to get good at it. And ideally, good therapy does that, but so does, courses and things like that too. So it's a great entry point. Other than that, people can go to my website. I offer an initial call if anybody ever wants to hop on and meet and connect and just have an exploration of whether it's a match for us to work together.
Yeah. Well, your heart is certainly in the right place. And I can feel you from across the screen, just the love and devotion you have to this work. And I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. Likewise.
Well, that's our show today, folks. I'd like to thank Shems Heartwell for coming on. I'd like to thank our sponsor over at We Society. And I'd like to thank all of you for listening. Coming up next, we have Adam Jackson talking about the power of ceremony. So long until we see you next time.
This the road less traveled. You don't have a say-so in how I move. You don't know my battles. Can't be on my boat with no paddle. How you talking down on the captain, but moving like cattle? Niggas try to play me, but that shit is funny. Get to know the new me. I've been getting money. I've been changing lives now. Conquer my depression, leveled up, and I'm alright now. Yeah. My intuition knows best. I can't take advice from niggas who ain't never share my steps. Fuck a seat at the table, I'd rather go and build a home. Like an architect, I can create a world out of stones. And my foundation strong. Running a marathon, I got laps on my bones. What you want? I'm a king on the throne, blazing new trails just to put my people on. What I'm saying is, you can't rush my greatness. I've been elevating daily on a mission for my people. All the love I've been receiving, oh, got me oh so dedicated to uplift the world's vibration. This is affirmation of alignment with the highest.